this space. Smotrich, Ben-Gvir demand Netanyahu more power over occupied West Bank. This is from the Palestine Chronicle, February 18th, 2023. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir have demanded that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu immediately hand over authority of the West Bank, the occupied West Bank. Israeli media reported on Friday. According to Israeli media, this issue's caused tension within the government coalition as Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant until now has refused to transfer powers that could have implications on security issues. Smotrich, head of the religious Zionist Party, and Ben-Gvir, head of Otzma Yehudit, called for Netanyahu to respect the coalition agreements. The Jerusalem Post reported Otzma Yehudit is Jewish power. Tensions reportedly escalated with the demolition of an olive grove farmed by illegal settlers north of the occupied West Bank city of Ramallah on Wednesday. The uprooting of the grove in the Shiloh Valley north of Ramallah is an injustice that cries to the heavens and could and should have been prevented, Smotrich tweeted. We demanded and received in the coalition agreements the responsibility over the civil administration and the civil life in the West Bank precisely in order to end this discriminatory maltreatment of settlers. Smotrich, according to the Jerusalem Post, stressed if Yoav Gallant has a problem with that, handing over power to him, he's welcome to quit. I'm convinced many in the Likud would be happy to take his place in the defense ministry. You'll see in further articles the reasoning for opposing the uprooting of the olive grove. And this from the Middle East Monitor. Smotrich Ben-Gvir demand Netanyahu hand over West Bank authority. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir have demanded that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu immediately hand over authority over the occupied West Bank, to whom it was promised, Israeli media reported on Friday. According to Israeli media, this issue's caused tension within the coalition escalated by the demolition of an olive grove north of the occupied West Bank city of Ramallah on Wednesday. Smotrich, head of the religious Zionist Party, and Ben-Gvir, head of Otzma Yehudit, called for Netanyahu to respect the coalition agreements, the Jerusalem Post reported. Haaretz reported that the evacuation of the olive grove escalated within minutes into an internal government battle royale over policy and authority. The famous Israeli newspaper stated that this reflects the shaky status of the new coalition, also citing the issue of the judicial overhaul. Smotrich tweeted, and we just read that. Meanwhile, the Times of Israel reported the power transfer of the sensitive defense ministry body responsible for authorizing settlement construction and demolition of illegal Israeli and Palestine building in the IDF-controlled Area C of the West Bank has yet to take place, amid significant pushback from both the security establishment and the Biden administration. It also reported critics arguing that handing control of a West Bank authority to a civilian office headed by the finance minister would amount to de facto annexation. Smotrich, according to the Jerusalem Post, stressed if Yoav Gallant has a problem with that, he's welcome to quit. I'm convinced many in Likud would be happy to take his place in the defense ministry. On this issue, opposition leader Yair Lapid tweeted, "Have you noticed that there are two ministers in the defense ministry, one for and one against? This is not a government. It's a preschool without a preschool teacher." Former Likud official Gideon Sar also tweeted, "The Prime Minister reached out to me and asked for my assistance. I told him, Bibi, I'd be happy to help you, but I do not know whether to help your right hand or your left." Well, interesting enough, Gallant is part of Likud, so it's a coalition government, but Gallant is in the same party as Netanyahu. And this from yidinfo.net, different perspective. I will be fact checking part of this, or at least pointing out particular biases. Rift in Netanyahu coalition after civil administration uproots Shiloh orchard. And this is from the 15th. After the civil administration for the West Bank, it says Judea and Samaria here, but it's officially the West Bank, which was ostensibly still under the control of Defense Minister Gallant, uprooted a Jewish-owned orchard and olive grove on the plains of Shiloh, a huge schism emerged in the coalition led by Netanyahu. The uprooting occurred despite the explicit orders of Bezalel Smotrich, a minister in the Defense Ministry, who, by the coalition accords, is meant to have control over the civil administration. Despite Defense Ministry Yoav Gallant's Likud instructions to the civil administrations to proceed with destruction, Smotrich has ordered a halt to construction. To stop the demolition, dozens of yeshiva and seminary students gathered at the Hen Ben Eliyahu-owned fruit and olive plantation in the Shiloh Valley. And you'll see why the right is opposed to the uprooting, and the left is, I wouldn't say they're opposed, but they are going with the uprooting. Or not opposed, but they're going with the uprooting. According to the Honenu organization, police have detained about 40 demonstrators. The Ben Eliyahu family claimed on Wednesday that it's incomprehensible that a right-wing government would do this. 20 years of work were undone in a split second, and no one standing up to stop this injustice. We request that all government ministers stop what they're doing and visit us. To halt the destruction using their Knesset immunity, 2 members of the government, MK's Lamor's son Har Melik and Zvi Sakat, were stopped by police. According to Sakat, the orchard should not have been removed, as the Civil Administration's Appeals Committee said it shouldn't be demolished. Despite this, the administration's head decided to overthrow the committee rather than follow its rules. The Prime Minister and Minister Gallant are urged to honor the coalition's agreements and end this heinous exodus. And so it's referred to as a heinous exodus by YID Info. Again, their reasoning, their justification for doing it, their legal justification for doing that is interesting and should be pointed out. And here's where it gets, sensational. Police surrounded son Har Melik in a way that she described as humiliating and sexually frightening, even though she was an MK. She was also prevented from protesting the uprooting. The civil administration has charged the Ben Eliyahu family with illegally claiming farmland in the Shiloh Valley. I emphasized how there because earlier it said Yahoo. Let's see if that's consistent. Citing court orders compelling the family to remove its orchard. The right-wing parties have complained that the laws have been applied unfairly because the charges are based on a Supreme Court ordinance used primarily against Jewish settlers, while the courts have not singled out Palestinians who construct and grow unlawfully. So, their justification is, I reworded it a bit here, their justification is that Israeli right-wingers say that the courts unjustly limit them from building, but not Palestinians. And because it doesn't single out Palestinians, they feel like they have the implicit right because, they are, I don't know how they frame it past that, but this is, so I'll read that again. The right-wing parties have complained that the laws have been applied unfairly because the charges are based on a Supreme Court ordinance used primarily against Jewish settlers, while the courts have not singled out Palestinians who construct and grow unlawfully. The outpost's destruction increased hostilities inside the Netanyahu administration between Smotrich and Gallant, and prompted Smotrich's religious Zionist party to boycott the cabinet. Smotrich sent a letter to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during the demolition on Wednesday morning, warning him that any additional delays in carrying out the civil administration transfer could jeopardize the government's stability. About a month ago, I gave the order against Hin bin Eliyahu be promptly revoked as minister in the defense ministry designated to oversee the civil administration and coordinator of government activities in the territory. But to my great amazement, the defense minister blatantly disregarded the coalition agreement and overturned my choice. Even if the allegations against the orchard were refuted in court proceedings, Minister Gallant has chosen to carry on the left-leaning policies of former Minister Benny Gantz and destroy orchards. Smotrich continued pleading for today transfer of control over the civil administration to his office. After the majority of the orchard had been demolished, Netanyahu finally gave Gallant the order to halt the destruction. Due to his conflict with Gallant, the defense establishment worries that Smotrich may use his position as finance minister to delay funds for defense-related activities. I would play the video of the politician being encircled by the IDF, but it's just propaganda. We'll see. We'll hear more about her and see more about her as we continue to update our Yahoo Israeli government watch. And watch this space. We'll be back with more all access news.